So there's certain things that had to happen in order for this election to go the way that it went. I built this diagram, and the diagram is really simple. So you first start off with absentee ballots. You have to have ballots that can be unvalidated. In other words, that absentee ballot system has to go through a signature verification process. The signature verification process is actually tied to the internet. So when you have that connection to the internet, it goes out, looks at driver's license record, or even the absentee ballot request form, the signature that's on that form. It goes back in, tries to validate that signature through the first adjudication process. If it matches, it goes to verified. If it doesn't match, it goes through a curing in most states. You contact the voter, they come back in, they look at the signature, they verify it's them, it then goes back into the verified. If you turn down the ability to match signatures, or you stop verifying signatures through that adjudication process and just sending them to verified, you bypass the integrity of that particular system. Does that make sense? All right. So then you take those ballots, you go through verified, and then the next step is to separate the ballots on the absentee ballots from the envelope. The envelopes are what can tell you how many ballots you actually should have that are absentee ballots. But what we found in many states is that the envelopes were actually destroyed, making it impossible for you to validate against any of the absentee ballots. So the next step is a tabulation system where you take those ballots that have been separated from the envelope and you put them through an image scanner. So it's called an ImageCast system on the Dominion side. So you put them through, they're scanned in. At that point, you can actually add in fake ballots, ballots that have just been reproduced, or phantom ballots. Ballots inside the system can actually be created out of thin air. You can actually create a ballot out of thin air. You put those through the tabulation system. This is where the second adjudication happens. This is the adjudication of intent. Now, inside of the Dominion system, you have the ability to set different levels of what becomes adjudicated. So I could send ballots through the system with absolutely nothing filled out. Well, this is where it gets really tricky. Once you do that and it goes to adjudication, and you develop or create intent, it erases the ballot that the image that was taken and replaces it with the one of intent. Replaces it completely. So you don't actually have a history of that ballot being replaced in the adjudication process. So if you have ballot harvesting that's happening and it gets through those different cons that you have there, it's still going to be tied to a real voter. When you put phantom ballots or you put blank ballots in the system that aren't tied to that verification process, when it enters that environment, then you have to find a way to align it with a voter. You have to have the system come down and come back up so that it can validate against those blank ballots or phantom ballots. So the same way that you had to verify that those signatures and that those were actual voters, you have to do the same thing. You have to find a way to sync up those fake ballots with an actual voter.